All right, welcome everybody. It's Chris Petri. Thanks so much for coming by. We're doing a really fun extreme beginners video. This means if you're just starting out, it's your first time watercolor painting. If this is your first day trying it out, maybe this is your first month or two. You've been painting maybe a couple weeks or maybe a month or two. You're trying to get your feet under you and learn all about the methods and techniques of watercolor, the how-tos, the things that you're going to want to learn that are going to help you progress quickly through the watercolor medium. This is the perfect time to do it. Let's get together and I'll cover everything from these paintings that we're going to create here, these 6 paintings. We're going to do a tree to start with. Then we're going to do a field with a sky, like a country field with a sky. We're going to do an ocean with a cloudy, stormy sky with sandy beach. We're going to do some leaf forms. We're going to do a couple flower shapes, and then we're going to finish off with a street scene, nice street scene here, kind of like a park setting with some city buildings along this scene here and a beautiful watercolor sky. So you're going to learn everything here on this first video so you can kind of get your feet wet with watercolors. And again, if it's your very first time, great to have you here. I'm hoping you'll consider subscribing on the right hand side below, hitting the subscribe button. This way you don't miss a thing as we go forward. But I'm going to cover everything here on this video. You'll see all of the paints we use, the colors, and we're going to cover the pencil drawings, the layout, how to design your compositions as we do, where you're going to put everything just in the right place. So all that coming up. Stay tuned. We'll be right back in just a second. All right, hi, this is Chris Petri. Welcome. We're doing a video here. It's an Extreme Beginners Series video. We're going to cover what it's like to start out watercolors your first week or first month when you're just getting started. Maybe you have seen this video for the first time and you haven't seen any other watercolor videos before. That's a perfect situation because I'm going to cover all the basics you'll need, the nuts and bolts of how to start watercolor. Also, you might have seen another video or two of mine of just watercolor painting. I do, watercolor paintings every week, so I'm always making new videos. So if you're subscribing here, feel free to subscribe to stay in contact with us here when we're painting our watercolors on a weekly basis. We do some more, professional style watercolor paintings. We do intermediate and also beginner videos. So we cover everyone's place, no matter where you are starting or where you are in your watercolor journey. Always remember, you can practice along with any of the videos and just apply to your skill level. So if you've been painting a long time, maybe 10 years or more, you're an old grizzled pro, that's fine. You can apply even a beginner's video and just kind of take maybe the subject matter we're creating and then apply to your skill level. But at the same token, if you're just starting out and you've never painted or created any pencil drawings or painted any paintings before, well, this is the perfect place too. But this is really the Extreme Beginner Series video, and it's really geared for the beginners that are just starting out. So these would be the most first fundamental things you'll need to start out with when you're creating some watercolor paintings and getting started and seeing if you like it. And if you're interested, you'll probably keep working on it. And then maybe, as artists, sometimes we start out with one thing and we move into something else. Maybe you'll move into sculpture or acrylic painting or oil painting or something eventually. Maybe you'll start out with this for a couple months and find you want to try something different. That's fine too. So just remember, be flexible. If you're going to start out here with watercolor, it's a great medium to paint in. It's user-friendly, cleans up easy. You can take it anywhere on vacations, weekend getaways, out to the park, in your backyard, in your home, in your kitchen table, your studio, wherever it is. You can start out with watercolors and have many years of a lot of fun and enjoyment with it. And again, it's user-friendly. It's really easy to just take some of your art supplies, put it in like a duffel bag or a backpack or a purse, even your shirt pocket. You can put some brushes in there, and it's real easy. It's real fun, and let's get started. So I always mention when you first start out, you'll probably need, just a pencil. Could be an office pencil's fine, or a retractable pencil, which is a little easier. You can just have you can click the back of the pencil and you get lead coming out, and you don't have to worry about sharpening your pencil. But if you have a pencil sharpener, then you can use something like this, like a simple office pencil. And I use both of these, on an ongoing basis. I have a pencil sharpener here in the studio. And then we have the brushes like we're going to use. This one comes with the Prang Oval 16 set, which is really fantastic. And it's very pointy. Let me see if I can So it's very pointy. You can see that. It's got a beautiful point on this round brush that comes with the set here, the Prang Oval 16 set. And they have a new cover on this, but I have all of the links for all my supplies here below. So it's just Amazon links. I purchased probably 90% of all my art supplies on Amazon. They have everything. It saves me time. I don't have to go anywhere traveling or anything like that out to the stores. I just order it. It shows up in my house a couple of days later, and I don't waste any time. But in any case, you know, feel free to shop around down below. I have, again, all my art supplies down there. And so this brush comes with the set. And then I also have other brushes that you can purchase, and these are down below. This is a Simply Simmons. I'm not sure if this one's in the description box below, but this is actually a Princeton Art and Brush Company 5/8 inch flat brush, and this one comes in a set of like 6. So you can get like 6 brushes, a couple of round brushes like these. All, you know, they all look the same. They have the same kind of like wood tone handle, really nice. So you can get like a 6 pack of brushes, and they're very inexpensive. Maybe like for $10 you can get a lot of brushes right out from the start. But you could literally just start with the one brush that comes with the set. The Prang Oval 16 set, again, it has that brush that you can just start with, and you really don't need to have anything else. And then there's some art watercolor paper. Watercolor paper, I try to use the best that I can afford within my budget. And someone told me a long time ago, another artist I think I was watching on YouTube, they said that it's really important if you can try to get the best paper you can for your budget, because paper can make or break like a painting. Sometimes when you have better paper, better quality paper, watercolor paper, it's just a lot easier to paint on. Everything just goes much more smoothly with your washes and gives you more, more working time. Sometimes the less expensive watercolor papers can be a little bit difficult, but you just have to work with your budget and see, what you want to purchase. But I use the Fabriano Studio watercolor. I think it's a great bargain. It's like student grade paper, but it's actually performs like professional paper. So, I feel it's a great bargain, and you get you can buy different size pads, but the pad I buy, which is this one here, it's 11 by 14 inch pad of paper, 50 sheets. And again, it's high quality paper that you can use. Professionals use it to create professional quality paintings in watercolor for gallery showings and for selling their paintings professionally. So you really can't go wrong with the Fabriano artist studio. It's called Studio Watercolor, and I have a link to it below as well. And then you have some tape. Sometimes we'll tape around our compositions and paintings with some artist tape, drafting tape. And then again, this is the Prang Oval 16 set of watercolor. So we'll cover this. What I like to do is I like to rearrange my colors a little bit. So let's do that quickly before we start, just so we kind of have an idea of how we're going to rearrange our colors in our palette, so that it will help us to kind of think in terms of our colors being warm and cool. So here I have my phone open, and this is a diagram of the colors and how I set them up in the palette. So the first thing I do when I get my new palette in the mail, because I usually use maybe every 6 months I buy a new palette. So I just take out my plastic trays here in my palette. Very easy to do that. And then I just start pressing out the colors one at a time. I don't make any big fuss about it. I just take all the colors out right away from the start. Just like that. I press them all out. Press all the colors out when I start, because I'm going to rearrange them from warm to cool. So I want to keep all my warm reds and yellows and golds and earth tones on the one side of the palette, and then as I start down here with the warm colors, as they start to get cooler, like the greens and then the blues, I kind of keep my palette divided, warmer on the left side and then cooler colors on the right. And that makes it easier to paint that way, and I keep all my paints in the same exact location every time, no matter what I'm painting or what palettes I'm using. I use different palettes occasionally. They're all set up the same way, with the paints warm on one side and cool on the other, and I always keep the exact colors in the exact locations every time. So this way, when I'm painting, I just automatically know where to go with my paint brush, so I don't have to think about it. All right, so now we have our two we have these here. We're going to put these back in the palette. And sometimes I'll put some double stick tape. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a quick break right now. As we're going here, you'll notice that I take a couple breaks here and there. It helps me to just maybe reorganize a few things in my studio. Hope you don't mind that. And we'll come right back. But what I'll do is I'll get some double stick tape. This way we can kind of secure these in the palette a little bit. They're kind of moving around, as you can see. I want to get these a little more secured here. So I'm going to get some double stick tape. And then once I do that, I'll double stick tape these in. And then we'll get to putting the paints in the proper locations that we will have a much more easier time staying organized with our colors and our thinking process as we paint. And this is really important to start out with. Again, if you're just starting out your first day of watercolor painting and, you're going to be working the next, couple weeks or month, these are the fundamental things you want to start out with that are really going to give you a head start with painting successfully. Okay? All right. So give me just 2 minutes. I'll be right back and we'll get started again. All right, so we're getting started again here, and we were just talking about maybe setting these with double stick tape so that they don't move around too much. I don't think it's too difficult to find double stick tape. I think I have it maybe in the links below, but if not, you can get this at any big box store, hardware stores. You can get this at the online anywhere. I use this is actually Scotch double stick tape. It's red, shiny on the outside, and it's like tacky on the inside here. And then you peel off the red tape like this. You peel it off the one side like that, and then you have double stick tape. I use this for a lot of different things. So I just put maybe one piece here like that, and I have another piece ready to go over here. I just trimmed it down a little bit, made it some smaller pieces. I divided one of the pieces in half here. So I just take that, peel off the red tape there. And these are some of the things we do as watercolor artists when you're first starting out. You have to kind of customize a few things. I know it's not the most, just, take it out of the box and it's all ready to go. Could be helpful too, having your palette set up really nicely like this. So you have this, and then you put the plastic back in, and then you press down there, and then it locks in with the double stick tape. And we do the same thing here. I just move this up and squeeze it in like this, like that, and then I just keep it like that, and then I press it down into the double stick tape, and that's all we have to do. That's perfect. Now the second thing, we'll put our paint back in. So simple enough to do. We do it logically. Warm on one side, cooler colors on the right, and we have it right here on my cell phone. I just took a photo of one of my paint charts I made. You can actually look this up on my channel, or you can just type into YouTube Chris Petri Prang palette colors, and you'll see the video. I have maybe about 10 videos on different palettes and how to set them up. So if you maybe purchase a different palette than this one, and you might see it on my channel. I have a lot of videos on palettes. You just type in my name again, Chris Petri palette, and you'll see all the videos there. So I'm just looking at my colors here, and I can kind of match them up and say, okay, that's alizarin crimson. That's the first one. And I call these by the names of colors I'm most familiar with my tube paints. So I paint with tube paints mostly. But again, doing my Extreme Beginner series videos, I use this palette because this, I think, again, is a great palette to start out with for the first, year of watercolor painting. It's fine. Actually works much better than probably dealing with using tube paint. So this here is cadmium red. So I'm looking at these here, and I'm sort of looking at the colors, and I can see this one's cadmium red. It's a little bit more red. This is a little more orange, so I say that's cadmium red. I'm just matching up the colors to this chart, and anyone that needs this chart, you can always just leave a comment in the comment section of the video, and then I can give you the exact link to where you can find this chart where you can actually watch the video. So I'll send you a link if you need to. Okay, and then we got cadmium orange here. cadmium orange light here. So already I'm just working right along here with my colors, going up from really, really warm to cooler colors. Okay, we have a lemon yellow here, cadmium lemon yellow. That's what that looks like to me. Then we have an olive green. Then we have a sap green. Now I'm looking at my color chart here and I'm saying, did I miss anything? Yeah, I did. After the yellow we have burnt umber, which is like brown. So that's an earth color, and I'd put that there. Then I'd go with my olive green next. Then my sap green. Viridian goes here. Now I just have to find my sap green. Sometimes these colors are hard to see. The only other thing you might need is a water container. So I usually have the water containers you can purchase, the plastic collapsible ones like this. So I use those. And then I think this is my sap green over here. So I just take a little bit. Yep. That's sap green, which is the very, very top. There. Then we go to Viridian. Viridian over here. That's fine. I can tell that's Viridian. Then over here, Cerulean looks like this here. And then Prussian blue. Let's see what we have here. These might be a little bit, that looks like purple. There's a black in here. I think this is the black. Okay, I think that's black, but let me set that aside. This is purple. That might be the ultramarine violet. This I think is lavender. Okay, so lavender is 3 down from the top. And then next to lavender we have ultramarine violet. Let's see. Ultramarine violet, that's good. French ultramarine blue. Okay, we have that there. Let's see what we have here. Sometimes we have to... That looks like French ultramarine blue. This might be the violet. Yes, that's the violet. So this actually gets changed with this one. So some of these we have to carefully reference our colors here. That's all we're doing, is I'm just referencing these colors, and if you have to put some out on the palette to kind of see what matches these colors, it might take a few minutes to... The blue and purple tend to be the most difficult. The reds are kind of easy to see, the different colors that we're using and the way we're putting it in that same order. But the blues and the purples might be a little bit difficult, so you just have to take your time. Keep rinsing your brush too as you're working. So I have my water container here, and I just keep rinsing my brush as I'm working to look at the colors in the palette, so you can see the colors, the identifiable colors that you're looking at here. And then this here is, what do we have here? This looks like Prussian blue. And that's Prussian blue there, which is a cool blue. It has kind of like a greenish blue to it. And then it's simple enough. Our last are white for smoke effects or things like that, or to make things a little more opaque, your Chinese white or white paint. And then black. Black is here at the top. Ivory black. It's a warm black. And that is it. We have all our colors set up. That's all we needed to do. And this is part of your setup, your first day or your first week or so. You'll try to get your palette set up like this, as close as you can to this setup as I have right here. And then we just go in and clean up our palette a little bit. So I use paper towels. I use paper towels and tissues. So I use paper towels. I trim them up into square pieces like this. So I use paper towels to clean my palette. And I use tissues to take water off my brush. So when I'm painting, you'll see when we're painting, sometimes we're going to rinse off our brush, and then we're going to take some water off the brush after we rinse it off. So we rinse off our brush. We stop at our tissue first. You might hold your tissue in your hand, or you might have a sponge. You can use a piece of sponge next to your water container. So that's another method we can use. Use a sponge next to your water container. You rinse off your brush, tap off a little bit of the water on your sponge next to your water container, and then you can come over and get your colors. And you'll see how taking a little bit of water off your brush before you get your colors, pick up your colors and start painting, it's going to help you a lot, because the tendency is to have too much water in your brush, in our brushes when we start, and then we start flooding out our paints, and we're adding too much water to our composition. So we're going to start painting in just a second. Just wanted to, again, cover these fundamentals so you have them. Basically, this is all you need to start. From here, once you get comfortable with this setup that I'm showing you, then you'll start to develop your own techniques, and you'll maybe change things around a little. Maybe you'll be looking around YouTube and seeing other artists and how they do things, and watching some other videos, and you'll get lots of great ideas out there as you're on the watercolor journey. But when you start out with, the best thing is just to start out with something fixed that someone's told you, that you trust. Stick with that for a while and just use that, and then you can alter things as you go as much as you like. You're the artist. You're going to start to alter things and start doing things that are going to make your life easier, or you seem to make more sense to you. Not everyone is going to do everything exactly the same, but it is good, just a good trusted principle. You start out with what someone's teaching you first, and then you follow that for a while until you're really comfortable with it and understand it and see how it's kind of functioning for you. And then you can move on and start changing things around a little bit here and there, and kind of custom tailor it to your own needs, and how you want your artwork to be looking, and how you want your process and your workflow to be going. All right, so that's good. We got everything all set up, colors in the palette just the way we want it. And now they stay the same all the time. We never want to, even if you buy a new watercolor set, just like this one, you're going to take your new watercolor set and do the same thing. Take all the colors out and put them all back in the same exact locations as we have here. And that's really the most complicated thing, I think, out of all of our processes here, really, to remember. And that's it. All right, so we'll take another quick break. I'll get reset. What we'll do is we'll set up some, we're going to do 6 compositions right now in this series right here, this first video of getting started with watercolor. 6 compositions, simple compositions that you can start with, that are going to kind of give you some really fun ideas to start with, that you can eventually incorporate into your paintings, into your larger compositions or your larger paintings as you go, whatever you like to paint. And we paint everything here on my channel, so whether I'm painting landscapes, seascapes, city scenes, portrait paintings, figure paintings, flower paintings, still life paintings, whatever it is in watercolor, I'm painting it all the time on my channel. So I'm hoping you will subscribe so you don't miss a thing. But, have fun with it. Start out whatever you like the most, stick with that. So if you find you like one or two of these compositions that we're doing a little bit more than the other ones, then maybe try working on those a little more, and try just practice them over and over again until you kind of really get them looking good, where you say, wow, yeah, I really get that. I really know how to paint that tree, or that cloud, or that bit of ocean, whatever it is. We'll cover that as we go. We'll talk about that more as we go. But you want to practice too the things that are more exciting to you, that are more fun, that pique your interest. But at the same token, you also want to practice things as you go in your watercolor journey. You want to practice a little bit of everything if you can, because that'll give you a more diverse experience with all of your things you're working on. But when you start out, try painting your favorite things, and naturally you'll paint your favorite things all the time anyway as an artist. You'll notice that artists like to paint certain things more than they like to paint others, and that's just how we are as artists. You like to paint what's most exciting, that makes that's thrilling to you, that makes you feel good, and that's what it's all about: feeling good with your artwork, enjoying it, having fun, having joy when you're painting. And then you move on from there, and you'll just always have a good time and have fun with it. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to have lots of fun as we come back and start working on our first compositions, okay? All right, let's get started in just a second. Let me just reset myself here, and then we'll get going. All right, so we're going to section off our paper now into 6 areas, 6 squares. All I did was just divide my paper into 3 sections, going with a small hash mark going once, and over here a second hash mark, and then over here is the edge of the paper. So we have 3 marks across the paper, equally divided, and you can just do the math on that. You know, you just take a calculator and divide your size of your paper going across from side to side, divide it by 3, and that gives you your number of what you need to be. And then I just take my Sharpie marker and make a line on each of those hash marks. So that gives me my 3 divisions going this way. And now we're just going to divide the paper halfway across this way. And I did the same thing. I just measured from the top of the paper to the bottom of the paper, divided it by 2. And then I'm using a T-square, which has the straight edge on this side of the ruler. And you just hold it against the edge of the paper, and that gives you a perfect right angle. And then we can just go right from there and get our other. And then we can just take our ruler and line it up on that line, so that we just extend that line over. And that is it. So now we have our 6 sections, and we're going to do 6 compositions. And we'll start out with a simple tree, just to get ourselves started here with our compositions. I'll use the brush that we have with the set our Prang Oval 16 set came with. We'll use that brush. And we'll use our office pencil to start with here. And again, we'll take our spritzer bottle. While we're doing our pencil drawing first, we'll just take our spritzer bottle and just give the paints just a very light, quick misting. And that's all we need to do. That'll be fine. By the time we start to paint, it'll be perfect. So we're going to start out with making just a small bit of a ground kind of line here. So this is where the tree is going to start, the base of the tree, the base of the trunk of the tree. So we just make a little hash mark there. And then this tree, we're going to make it kind of wide at the bottom. And we're also going to make the tree not standing straight like this. So usually let's say, kind of like most times if someone's going to say, hey, can you draw a tree? Can you paint a tree? Usually someone that's never really painted or has drawn that much, they'll just draw the trunk of the tree straight like this. So what we want to do is bring a little bit of sway to the tree, a little bit of a swale to it. So what we'll do is we'll take our trunk of our tree and we'll start it out like that. And then come up a little more straight. And then we can do it that way. So that'll be the first line we kind of start with, just a little bit of a swale that way. And then on the back of the tree, we're going to make this a little bit straighter, so not as much turn to it. This one's going to be a little straighter. And then we'll just go up like this. And then we'll make maybe 1 or 2 main trunks off of that. And it doesn't have to be fancy up here. We're going to do mostly we'll do our trunk though first with our dark brown paint. So we just start out like this, and I think that's all we really need to do is have some of these branches here. Just a couple small ones, maybe 2, like that. And basically they're all, if you can imagine, they're all just slightly turned this way, the branches. If it was a pine tree, the branches might be going straight out this way. But this is just like your standard oak or maple tree, something like that. Middle-sized tree, good-sized tree, maybe like a 50, 60-foot tree, 70-foot tree. And these angles are probably 40 degrees, like this. 40 degrees, 40 degrees, 40 degrees. So if we were looking at it, on a scrap piece of paper, something like that, we would tend to see the main trunk is sort of like this, and then 40-degree angles, like that. So that's kind of the first part. So let's get our brush, and we're going to have our tissue. I keep my tissue in my left hand. My water pail, again, my water container is just over to the right here, a little bit off camera. And you can, again, put a sponge next to your water container if you want a small sponge, like this or something, kitchen sponge or something, and you put that next to your water pail, and then you can If you don't want to bother with the tissue, you could just tap the sponge a few times with your brush, or I use the tissue. I tap off a little bit of water on the tissue, and I go in and get my paint. And we'll get some brown paint here to start with. So we'll take some brown paint, thick paint, not much water at all, pretty much straight paint, just from the palette with that little bit of that spritzer bottle we used, right? So then we put some brown in there. Maybe we have a touch of black over here with that. And then maybe some orange too. We'll use some orange and some yellow, like this. So we have a good, and then maybe just a touch of blue. Touch of coolness to it. Green, greenish blue. I think that's good. We used a mix of colors. Again, we used first burnt umber, or the brown. Then we added a touch of black, a little bit of orange and yellow, earthy kind of colors, warm colors, and then maybe just a touch of that cerulean blue, just to have a little bit of coolness to it too as well. Mix it in, and just, we don't keep, let's not swirl and swirl and swirl and swirl with our paint. Let's keep it very much, all the colors look identifiable here. We can see kind of like all the colors we put in, and we don't want to, again, swirl around too much and mix these all together. We want to leave them sort of separate. Just mix them a little tiny bit together. And then we just take our brush and set it right down on the paper like that, and just start carefully placing the paint onto the paper right within the boundaries of the tree trunk that we painted here, or that we drew in with our pencil. Now, we could say, if there's some light in the picture, some sunlight, let's say the sunlight's coming from here, we could take a little bit of our tissue and blot up a little bit of paint off this side of the tree to make that a little bit lighter, and then take some more burnt umber and some blue. Burnt umber and blue to make that a little darker, and this side might be a little darker over here. So already we're starting to create some light and shadow. And a great thing to always do, I hope you'll do this and practice this, and always try to keep this in mind when you start to do your compositions or your paintings. We try to identify our light source. So if our light's coming from this direction, like the sunlight in this picture, we'll draw a light insignia, which can be just a simple triangle shape. A triangle shape with a little bit of lines like this. And that'll let us know whenever we want to reference that. We'll say, oh yeah, the light's coming from this side of the tree, the sunlight. And then you can see here, this brush is absolutely fantastic. That comes with our Prang Oval 16 set. And we're just getting some finer branches in here, following our pencil sketch that we did. And you can just carefully utilize that brush, the very, very fine point of the brush too, for those really small. You can maybe make a branch come down this way, here and there. That looks pretty good. And I dry off a little bit of the water and make that a little bit lighter over here on the right side, like that. So we have a little bit of a lighter wash on the right side of the tree. And maybe we make some roots over here a little bit. Maybe a little bit of green, olive green over here for some grass. So we just want to have a little bit of grass here. Maybe we'll take a little bit of more green here, that olivey green, and do a couple little splashes. The splashes are easy. You just take your brush and then just hold it and then just tap on the brush with a little bit of that paint on there. Or you can just dab it on too, make little dabs of. So we have some grass here. We can also make some, let's go with purple. So I rinse off my brush. Now the purple will make a little bit more, add a little more water to that purple, and then add a touch of orange to that purple to just make it a little bit more mellow looking. And then we do a little bit of a shadow here for our tree. Just a little bit of that scribbly shadow look, like this. And then a little bit darker under here. The shadow's always darker. closest to its subject matter, like that. And then now let's do some finishing touches. Let's get our branches on there. So we'll make some more olive green over here. Now I'm doing a little more water. The trunk of the tree, we noticed we didn't use that much water. Now we added just a touch more water for our branches of our tree, and then we'll use some yellow, like this. That'll be like our lighter color leaves. And then we're going to go over here again, down here, and we're going to make our cooler leaves, which are going to be some of that cerulean blue, like that. A little bit of orange to neutralize that, and yellow maybe, and orange, and maybe a little more blue. So that's like our cooler green. Maybe a little bit of purple in there too. Okay, so now we have some warm green, olive green, making a warmer color green, which is like in the light over here. We take our brush on the side, we hold the brush like this now, kind of hold it like this, and just do some circular pattern like this, circular patterns with the brush, and we want to leave lots of white paper showing through the leaves. We don't want to paint everything, like block it all in. And then we take a little bit of the brown maybe here, and some of the cooler green for this side of the tree. And again, the same thing, circular patterns like this. Maybe a couple upstrokes like this. A little more of that yellowy green there, that warmer green, yellowish green where the sunlight is, like that. And some more of that cooler green over here where the shadows are. And again, you see I leave lots of white paper. I don't fill that whole tree in. Circular patterns with your brush, and you just touch down once in a while as you make those circular patterns, just so that you keep a nice flow with your brush going like that. And again, you don't want to fill in that whole area. You want to leave some areas where you can see through to the other side of the tree. And that looks fine. I think that's really good. If we can get that kind of a look, we are going to be happy. Maybe just a little more color there in the grass. And if you see something that you don't like, if you make a brush mark that you're not happy with, you can once in a while just lift up a little bit. But that's fine. And then if we want to, we could just take a little bit of blue, just like that. Maybe a little bit of brown to neutralize that a little bit, just make it a little bit grayed down. Some of these colors are very intense, so you'll find that if you just add a little bit of that burnt umber, that brown, to any of your colors, if you want to just mellow them out a little bit, that might look better sometimes. So you have to judge that and see how you feel about that. And we'll just put a little bit of blue sky in. Again, the same kind of technique, just dragging the brush very lightly across the paper. And again, I'm using that Fabriano paper, which really lets me get these really nice, you know, that textury kind of look. You see how that we have that textured look? That's the Fabriano paper, the student watercolor paper. You can get the really nice textures. And you can blend in that sky wash a little bit here and there. just to get some sky wash in there, make it like a little bit of a blue sky. And then we can just take that color and gently wash it down a little bit here and there with just a little bit of water in the brush. Like that. And that is good. So I'm hoping you're enjoying this first day on the job with your watercolors. I hope you really learn a lot from this video. We're going to just do some real simple six simple compositions, and we should have some really good success with this. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to start with our second. We'll maybe do a field and a sky. So the next composition is going to be a little less detailed. You know, this is quite detailed, this one. Now we're going to do a simple sky in a field, and we'll see how that turns out. We'll do some blue sky, some green grass in the field, maybe some golds and things like that, maybe a little bit of weeds and grasses and things. But we'll start next on the next one. I just want to take a quick break and be right back. Okay, so we're going to move on to our field and sky. This one's going to be, again, a little more straightforward, not as complex as a tree that we did in the first composition. But we'll just take the idea of, we're looking at the rectangle here, our compositional area that we're going to work in. Let's just say that we'll make the field about 1/3 up on the page, and we'll make the sky 2/3 high. So we're going to just take this square, this rectangle, and divide it into thirds. So this will be the first third is our field, the back of the field, the horizon line of the field, and this is going to be the sky up here. That's a good space division, I think. So I'll make this a little bit darker so we can kind of see. That's going to be the field, the edge of the field, and then we're going to have our sky up here. And let's get started again with our, we're going to use the same brush we used before. The only thing I think I would do right now is I'll empty out my kind of murky, muddy looking water now, and start out with some fresh, clean water. So I'll empty out my water bucket, and I'll pour in some fresh, clean water. And then you can kind of see that's just crystal clear water in there now. And then on this one here, maybe we'll just do something a touch different than we did on the first one. Let's take a little bit of water, just fresh, clean water with our brush, and let's just, in a few spots here and there, mostly up higher in the sky, let's add some fresh, clean water just to the paper. And then add a little more as we go down a little bit, but not too far down to the bottom, but just maybe the top half of the sky. So if we're talking the sky's about this much, maybe halfway across about this much of the sky, we're going to add just some fresh, clean water like that and just have it up there in the sky. And that'll be fun. We'll use the same colors too. We're going to use the same color sky wash. We'll have some more of that blue, which is like a cerulean blue. And again, we'll neutralize it with a little bit of that brown and mix that we had up here, just to kind of tone it down, a little bit of brown like that. Maybe we'll even add in a little bit of some French ultramarine blue, which is that little more of a warmer blue with a little more red in it. So we use this blue as well. So we use this blue plus the cerulean blue we used to start with. And then again, a little bit of the burnt umber to neutralize it just a touch. And then we just take it and slide the brush across the page. Let's make the top of the sky darker, though. Let's do that. Let's take and again, I'm holding the brush like this. You want to have that nice loose feel with your brush when you do the sky like this. You want to just drag that brush across and let the water do the work and the paint do the work. You don't have to work much hard on this here. Get this top portion darker. Go and get some more paint. If you start to run out of paint, quickly grab some more paint with a little bit of brown, a little bit of the French ultramarine blue. And again, drag that across. Get some of that darker wash up top, on the top of the sky like that. Skies are always darker up higher in the atmosphere, and then they lighten up as they come down. So now that you have that working in your favor, now you just take a damp brush. You rinse off your brush and just take the damp brush and just start to bring that down like this. In your sky, just gently drag that brush across, and you'll see I'm holding the brush really just lightly and just dragging the brush across on its side, the side of the brush like this. And then what we'll do is, we always notice that at the bottom of the sky where it meets the earth, it's usually a touch of orange there. So we'll just take a little bit of orange paint, not much at all, just a tiny bit. Add some water to it. There, you see how light that is? Just very, very light. And then just put a little bit of orange along there, and then kind of blend it in with the blue for the bottom of the sky, just like that. And it'll take you a while to get the feel of holding the brush. Mostly everyone, including myself, when I started painting early on, we always wind up holding the brush like we do a pencil, and that's fine. If you feel more comfortable holding your brush like a pencil to do this, you can do that too. That's fine. But you do get a little bit of a lighter touch if you can just let the brush barely touch the paper and just drag it across like so. It does work out really good that way. This way we get some of those white clouds in there. But that's really essentially the basics of getting that sky in that we wanted to. And then we're going to start doing the field. And the field is going to be similar. We'll get some more of the greens and yellows. That olivey green and yellow over here. We're going to use some of that blue sky wash with the green. Like that. So that might be the distant, cooler. The cooler grasses and things are going to be cooler green, like that bluish green over here in the distance, like that. And I'll just gently get my brush and like that, go across. Then as we move forward, we get some more of the olivey green. You can also lightly drag the brush across like this to get those nice feeling of some texture to the paper. And as we get closer, we're going to use some of that golden yellow. Like this. And then a little bit of the golden yellow over here too, but just a little bit. And then maybe even some orange as we get closer yet. And you can scrub around a little bit. Just drag your brush across. Again, if you feel more comfortable, you can use your brush more like a pencil or a pen when you're starting out. You just always remember, if you're just starting out, it's your first time painting, the brushes are going to feel awkward, and some of the brush strokes are, are going to feel, a little challenging, but you'll get used to it after a while. That's the whole thing, is just the more you practice, the better you get. That's all there is to it. Every minute you practice, you're a minute better, and that's just how it works as you go. And all right, we have a nice looking field here and a sky. And that's our second composition, and I think it's looking really good. And we got that really beautiful blue sky in there with some clouds and a nice field, keeping it simple, because we're kind of going with the idea of we're just doing compositions right now to just practice up on a few ideas, some compositions. That's a lot of how the great painters all through history would paint. They would always do smaller compositions first, work out some color ideas, some, get some ideas as they're working out their paintings, and then they might do a larger painting once they've done many smaller compositions like this. So if you're working on these smaller compositions, you're in a great place, because that's how all the great masters did their work for the most part. All right, so we're going to take a break, and we'll come back, and we're going to do our third. And this time we're going to do an ocean and a beach. So we're going to kind of keep it similar to this, where we're going to have a sky and then an ocean with some beach. And we might make the colors a little bit different, but somewhat similar. We'll see how we'll work out our next painting, but I think we will maybe use a little bit of some different sky colors. We'll try it and see what happens. But again, we're going to have some fun coming up next. We're just going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're getting back into it here. Let's spritz our palette a little bit. We're going to start another composition, of course. We just wanted to give our palette a quick spritz and clean out our palette with these previous colors we used. For the first two compositions, we did use similar color schemes, using the same colors for the most part, so we were able to kind of leave those paints in there, save and be economical with our paints. But sometimes we have to also clean up the palette and remove colors after a few passages in our compositions or our paintings. So it's always good to kind of, once you see the paint starting to mix a lot and become very muddy, we try to clean up the palette and start with the fresh palette. Especially now that we're starting a new composition. We're going to try a few new colors, I think, into the mix here. Let's see how it goes. So we talked about doing we're going to actually create an ocean and a sky. Ocean, surf, sky, and beach. So for that, I think we're going to go about 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. So we're going to do a third sky and a third beach and a third, maybe a little bit less. So let's make our, I would say, let's make our distant ocean here about a little bit above halfway. So if halfway is about here in our rectangle, our square, if halfway is about here, that's about roughly halfway. We go up a little bit higher than halfway, and that'll be our distant ocean line going across. And if you want to get it really super straight, you can use a square edge ruler like this, and just hold the T-square ruler on the edge of the paper. And I think I got it pretty close, like that. And then we're going to do a ocean about halfway here, like that. I made a little bit of a lighter line. Hopefully you can see that. So about halfway between here and here, we'll have the ocean, and then the sand is down here in the bottom. Okay, so we'll start out by creating the ocean. I believe is going to be the best way to do this. Let's do the distant ocean, which is going to be dark. We're going to have like a dark distant ocean for our horizon line. So I will go with blue. And you'll see that I'm going to take basically almost just a damp brush in the paint. I want to make this a strong dark color. We're going to also go with blue. That's French ultramarine blue here. And then I sometimes will dampen my brush a little bit. And let's give this a spritz too. Let's give our paints a spritz. We took a break for about an hour to have some dinner, and now we're coming back. Good time to just give this one little spritz around the whole palette, just like that. And then we'll go in here and grab some more blue. And you see how quickly this, that's why I believe this is one of the best palettes you can get if you're just starting out. You give this one good spritz of water, and then you have really beautiful, rich, luxurious colors like this. And we're going to use that cerulean blue. So right now, and then I will start to work on keeping the brush a little drier now with rinsing the brush off and then taking a little bit of water off the brush. I want to get a little more darker color, almost straight paint like that. And then I want to also introduce some burnt umber into this, and some green, some olive green. Olive green, burnt umber, and blue, that French ultramarine blue. I call it French ultramarine blue because that's what it really looks like when I put it onto the palette. I don't know if these are named colors with the Prang sets. I don't know how I'm not sure how they give their color paints names, but I just give them the names of my colors that I'm so used to after 20 years of watercolor painting. I use the same colors all the time when I'm painting in my when I'm using my tube colors, my tube watercolor paints. I use the same colors all the time. My palette never changes really. I might add a few colors once in a while here and there to experiment, but for the most part I'm really using the same colors all the time. So I just look at all these colors and they just look just like the colors in my tube paints. So that's why I gave them the name that I did. So now you'll see I'm doing that darker green. How good does that look, right? Can you see that? How great that looks, that green, dark like emerald green. With the blue and the brown kind of in there to get that nice dark. And then as we come forward and the ocean gets closer, and we are, again, leaving those white, little bit of white caps here and there in the ocean colors. Then we go more with the blue and less green and brown. So we're just starting to get that nice blue color. Look at that. And you can mix in some green with that too, a little bit. Kind of transition it and leave waves coming in. Doesn't that look great? A couple of splashes on there. A little bit of splashes with your brush. And a little bit of this looks like Viridian green. It's almost like a turquoise color. Maybe a little bit of more green in there. Yeah, that looks great. Wow. Leave lots of those white pieces of paper on there. Don't paint it all solid. That would be boring. Leave those white stripes in there. You can always you can always cover over some of those white lines if you wanted to diminish them a little bit. But once you cover over the white paper, you can't really lift it up and get those whites back. So that's the one thing about working with watercolor that you're going to really learn as you go, is try to preserve your white paper here and there as you're working, and you can always, again, go over it with a wash later. But there's no way to get that back. You could add some white paint to it, but it doesn't look the same. So now, I'm going to use green, I think. Sometimes you'll see green in the ocean. Like that. And that is it. Then we're now toward the beach now, the beach sand. So now for the beach sand, maybe we'll add some damp water to like we did the sky over here. Just add some fresh, clean water to your beach sand area. Not everywhere, just hit and miss, a little bit here and there, a little bit of fresh water. And then we'll mix up some sand color. That's really orange, yellow, and burnt umber. The colors that I call them. But that pretty much is a good beach sand color. A little bit of orange, brown, and yellow. And then we can just go across there like that. And then we blend it up here a little bit into the ocean. Waves coming in. And then you can make it a little bit darker, the sand if you want, a little bit darker, closer up to the foreground here. And I'd leave some texture on there like that. Maybe I'd pick up add some splashing to this. And what that does is that, maybe I'll put a paper towel down over here. Sometimes when you splash, you might have to cover an area if you want to. It depends how accurate your splashing is. Some brushes, this brush happens to be very brand new, so the splashing goes everywhere really. It's going up in the sky a little bit there. I wouldn't worry about it too much, but these are just compositions. You're having fun with compositions. You're not really trying to make these compositions that you're working on finished paintings or anything like that. You're just having fun and working with the medium, the watercolor medium, for your first couple months and first couple weeks, and you're just thinking of it as it's all just getting used to being familiar with your watercolor painting and your art supplies, your brushes, your paints, the water, all the different techniques that you're going to be using and working on. That's all it is. It's just getting familiar with it. Then for the sky, let's do the same thing. I might peel up this tape a little bit here that's holding the paper down, and I might move that over here. Maybe up here just a little bit by the sky up here. All right, let's do the same thing. Let's take some fresh, clean water and put most of it up at the top of the sky, but I wouldn't put it far down here. I would just keep that little bit of damp paper, dampen up your paper a little bit up top here, and then maybe a tiny bit of the dampness comes down here a little bit. And that's going to be your start to your sky. And then for our sky color, why not? Let's make it a little bit, we'll use some of this with a little bit of black, just a tiny bit of black and some brown. We'll make it a little bit of a stormy sky. Why not? Let's make it a little bit exciting. Some stormy clouds, some of those gray stormy clouds. Take your brush, dance your brush around on the paper. You're having fun. You know, have some fun with it here and there. Just like that. Leave some spaces. Don't fill it in solid. Take some darker portions of your, usually darker up top. And that's all you have to do. And then you can even take some of that, rinse off your brush. You might even change your water out now. You see how the water's kind of murky looking? Let's change our water quickly, dump it out. I have a larger bucket I have over there. I dump it into a larger bucket so I can just keep working. Like I wouldn't want to keep going back to the kitchen sink or the whatever, you know. It makes sense to have a larger bucket that you can use to drop your water bucket every time you need to change out your water. You have a larger water bucket and you dump your smaller bit of water here into that bucket. And then maybe, you know, once a week you change out the other bucket. But in any case, let's keep going here. We talked about a little bit of orange for our sky. A little bit of orange like that, mixed in with a little bit of this sand color we mixed. That should be fine. And then we just do a little bit of that mixing here with the gray and the orange to get a kind of a mix there. And I wouldn't overwork it. Try to underwork your paintings when you're working these compositions. Underwork it. Leave paper, white paper here and there. You can see I left all these little bits of white paper. You wouldn't want to just fill everything in. You want to kind of just strategically place the paint and let the paint kind of do the work and the water do the work, because we did pre-wet this paper here, as you noticed when we started here. And again, don't worry about it. It's your first time painting, or maybe your first few weeks or months you're even working on these things. Don't get worried if that doesn't go right the first time or the second time. You just keep working at it, and you just keep getting more and more familiar with it, and eventually it all goes smooth. And you were wondering, you won't even remember back to the time when you started and were frustrated and trying to figure out how this water stuff works, watercolor painting works. Okay, so there we go. A nice kind of stormy looking clouds, some beautiful beach, ocean waves coming in, beach here, beach sand. We did some speckles of sand on the beach here, or maybe a few more with some darker color, maybe just a little bit. You can always lift up a little bit of paint if you have to, once in a while. Okay, and that is, and sometimes if you oversplash and it doesn't come up, and when you lift it like that, you just leave it. It's okay. Again, it's just a composition. All right, so look at that. We have 3 compositions already completed. We're going to work on 3 more. I'm glad you're here working with me. Again, if it's your first couple days of watercolor painting or your first month or 2, just enjoy the process, have fun with it. You're not looking to hit any home runs when you first start watercolor, because it takes it takes some time to learn watercolor. I should say that. It's not a 1, 2, 3, you learn it like in a few weeks or a few months. You'll always get better each week, each month, and even year after year. You're going to keep getting better, and you'll always improve year after year. So when you start with watercolors your first year, you're going to learn a lot. You'll be making a lot of improvements. And then once you're painting 3 or 4 years, you'll still be making improvements, and you'll always be making improvements no matter how many years you're working at it. You'll always get better and better. So it's just a matter of, the more time you're putting in, the quicker your learning will develop. If you're only putting in maybe like one weekend a month, it goes slower. You won't be learning as much and accelerating as fast. So it's really that simple. The more, whatever time you put in the results will be showing in your work. And that's really the basic nuts and bolts of it. So no need to worry. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the whole process, going through it, having fun with it. Let's take a break. And when we come back, we'll start our next composition over here. We'll do some leaf forms, some plants and leaves. Just an exercise on if you're going to paint some flowers, maybe a flower vase or maybe some outdoor plants or a still life with some flower bouquets, things like that. You're going to be learning how to paint some leaf forms. And so we'll practice some leaf forms here. Then we'll do maybe some flowers next, and maybe we'll finish up with something interesting too as well over here. Okay, we'll be right back. All right, so we're getting started again here. I might shift over to a little bit of a different size brush. We've been using this prang brush that came with our set, and this is a great brush. We're going to actually keep this over here. We're going to use this, on this composition here, these leaf forms. So we'll create some leaf forms. What we're going to do is draw them first with some pencil. So I'm going to be using my number 2 office pencil here. And I think I'll just start out with maybe just a couple leaf forms here. Like this. Maybe we'll go with another here. And they don't have to be perfectly symmetrical, let's say. You could just do them, kind of maybe large, small. Okay, just some small leaf forms. And we'll get our palette here. And again, we did take a bit of a break for about 20 minutes, so we can spritz our palette again, just with a light bit of mist with our Holbein water spritzer bottle. And then I'm going to take that. I'm going to take this olive green and a little bit of burnt umber here, that brown color. Maybe an olivey kind of color here. And then what I do is I just take my brush and I sort of start it out like this, so I can use my brush like holding a pen or a pencil. I rest my hand on the paper at all times right now, so I'm not going to really lift my hand up. I'm just going to have my hand resting on the paper, and then I just place my brush down and press, and then just apply the paint, and just go right on down like that. And then as I get to the thinner part of the leaf form, then I can lift up like this, and again with my hand resting on the paper, I can take the point of the brush and kind of guide it to the pencil lines that I've drawn, and then also too do a little bit of the detail work on the top like that. And then we'll just work our way around here, and we'll do the same thing, pressing down. My hand's always resting. Incidentally, my board I'm working on is a masonite board with a little bit of construction paper on top, and then that gives me a large working board surface, so that even though my paper is this large, my working board extends all the way down another like 5, 6, 7 inches, so I can rest my hand all the way down here on the bottom of my working board, so that I can always rest my hand on that board that my paper is taped to. So if you can imagine, you'd want to have a working surface, and it is on a tiny bit of an angle, 1.5 inches. I have it propped up. My masonite board, I have it propped up at 1.5 inches. I can show you with the masonite board. It basically looks like this. You can get this at like your big box stores. They sell it in big sheets. You can have them cut it to any size you want to at your big box stores like Home Depot, Lowe's. They'll cut it and trim it down, but it's an eighth of an inch thick masonite board, hardboard, and it's very hard and rigid. And then you can set that down on a table and tape your watercolor paper to it, and you make it a lot larger than your paper, so that you can rest your hand. So if you have your painting or your paper, let's say your painting is like this on your board, your board's a lot larger, so you can rest your hand here, rest your hand down here, and then use your brush like this. So you can always have a spot to rest your hand as you're working, no matter where you're working around the entire painting. You can work above your painting like this, on the bottom, the side. You can come over to this side, work like this, or, you know, so spin all the way around and work on your paintings. So, but whatever you want to do is you'd like to have a large board surface. And you could have multiple boards. You could have them cut in different sizes so that when you're doing a larger painting, your board will be larger. If you're working on a smaller composition or smaller paintings, your board won't need to be as large. But these are great to do, to have them custom cut. You know, you might have them trimmed at the local, again, big box store. They'll cut them for you to size. You just buy the whole sheet of like a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet, and then trim them down to all various sizes that you would want. So we'll continue on here just to get this leaf form in. And you can see there's not too much puddly water on here. I'm going with almost straight paint. Very little water. And this way we have a good, rich, strong looking color for our leaf forms here. You can leave some highlights on your leaf forms too as you paint them in. Little bits of light. And again, we did this one mostly with olive green and a little bit of burnt umber, that brown color. And then to make this darker stem, we might go in and get some blue, that leftover blue there, and maybe a little bit of brown. Make it a little bit of a darker tonal value. And we could just make that a little darker like that. And that is good. Let's try another. Maybe we'll make this next bit of leaf forms a little bit different shape. Let's make these like this. And you can even overlap them like this if you want to. Make it a little interesting. Okay, and this one here, we'll make it a little more darker. And I might just go in with some really dark color like that. I place the brush right where I need it to go, and then I press down and move the brush like that, and then lift up. And that's really the beauty of resting your hand on the paper when you're working, is you get really good control of the brush and where the paint is going and the washes. And you can see I'm pretty much getting a good amount of paint. As I just pick up this paint here, I'm able to paint quite a bit without having to go back to the palette. And then you can adjust things as you go. And again, these are just shapes. You can add in another shape here or there. You could take a little bit of paint and do some splashing just to give it a little bit of effects, a little bit of a texture to your painting. You can lift up a little bit. All right, and let's move right along here. Let's create maybe a few flower shapes, and we'll do some interesting stuff here. We're gonna have a fun time. Let's Okay, and then maybe another one here. So I'm just doing some flower shapes. Like that. Just having some fun putting down some quick shapes. Now what we'll do is we'll take fresh clean water and we'll paint around these flower shapes we just created with our pencil lines. Paint a little bit of clean, clear water, damp, clear, clean water around those flower petals we just drew in here, these flower shapes. And we just go around them with some damp, clean, fresh water, like this. And you can look at your paper and kind of see that I'm painting right outside that pencil line, so I'm not infiltrating inside the flower petals. I'm staying outside, just around the complete entire outer perimeters of these flower shapes. Now I add a little more water up top and along the sides, splashing it on, just getting some fresh clean water on here. And this is the fun way to actually mix some beautiful colors and paint around something. So we're kind of negative shape painting. It's called negative shape painting, and you'll learn a lot of terms working in watercolor. There's a lot of terms you'll learn as you go. Right now we have lots of colors mixed on here. I think what I'll do is take a paper towel and just lift up these colors. We'll mix new fresh colors. Again, I don't want to get the colors too muddied up, so I just do a quick clean up fast here, and then let's do some green, blue, purple, orange, a little bit of brown, green. So you can see I just mixed some colors on this, both sides of the palette, warm and cool colors. And then we'll just go back in here and start to take a little bit of this color and do it a little bit everywhere. Like that. Then we'll rinse off our brush and we'll get a little bit of this color. And we'll mix this onto the paper here and a little bit everywhere. Okay, so I'm just basically taking all these colors and blending them together. And then you can take one of your favorite colors you think you might like the best and make that the major kind of like color and tone of the colors that you're putting on. So you can mix all different colors here as you go, greens and browns. But I would mix them everywhere, so take whatever color you use and mix it everywhere on the whole entire, around the canvas or around the paper. And then you can have a predominant color like blue. I'm going to use blue as my predominant color, like this, so you'll see that my blue is my most predominant color, but I did mix a lot of other colors in there too. And look at how great that looks. Now the fun part is going to be making some shadows on these flowers. So we'll take the we'll take some of this, maybe some orange. We'll make sure we have some orange in here. So let's take some orange and get it, move it around here on the page quickly though, because once this paint starts to dry on our paper, we can't add any more colors to it, but we just have enough time right now to add in a little bit of that orange. Good. All right. Then we take a little bit of that orange, and maybe we make some shadows on the petals of the flower. So maybe over here there's a shadow on the petal of the flower. Like that. Maybe over here there's a purplish blue shadow over here. A little bit of purple blue shadow there. little bit of an orange, and bluish purple shadow over here. Put some shadows on these petals here, just here and there a little bit. Maybe over here underneath these here there might be some shadowing, like that. Okay, if you think you have too many shadows, you can lift up a little bit with the tissue or paper towel, like that. Then we'll take some yellow and orange. We'll make a nice, just straight paint almost. And we'll make the center of the flowers like that. And then maybe we could even add in a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of brown to give it some shadowing, like that. And then you can even use this really beautiful prang brush here to kind of get in some really good sharp details into the flowers. Like that. Then you can smooth that out a little bit with a damp brush. I rinsed off my brush and dried it off on a paper towel or tissue first, and then I smooth that out. Like that. So you can see how you can get some really beautiful flower petals and flower shapes, and you can have a fun time actually mixing that paint around those flowers. And you can kind of just touch up the little bits around the flowers. So the lights, I think the light is coming from maybe this side and catching the petals of the flowers over here, and then there's some shadow over here on this side. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll clean up our palette one more time, and we'll start. Maybe we'll do a small like street scene, maybe a little bit of buildings and some sky, and we'll kind of have a little fun bit of time doing a street scene, maybe like a city scene. Okay, we'll be right back. All right, let's do a city scene. Let's keep it real simple. We're winding down this beginner's video when you're first starting out in watercolor. I'm always excited that all new people are coming and joining along on my channel and working along with us all here on my channel. I've had my YouTube channel for many years now, maybe 15 or at least 5 or 6 years now. I've been painting watercolors for over 15, almost 20 years now. I hope you'll check out my new book down in the comment section below. My new book is Methods for Success in Watercolor, and all you do is there's a 2-minute video, a quick 2-minute video, and what you do is you watch that video first. You'll see all the paintings. I have over 70 paintings in my book, beautiful, gorgeous watercolor paintings. You'll be able to work from the book, paint all of the paintings in my book, just have a fun time, just jump in there and start working with painting those paintings. Have fun and enjoy the book. I have tons of information, exercises in the beginning of the book as you warm up, and you'll learn about some different things. We can't cover everything here on this one video, but my book covers a ton of information, and you can check out all the pages of the book if you click on that 2-minute video below. And if you think it's worth it, you can get a copy of my book. It's really very, very economically priced. So I'm hoping you'll check that out. And again, all of the things we're using here, the papers, the brushes, the paints, the pencils, everything we're using. Amazon has all these art supplies that I use, and I put the links below so it makes it easy for you. You can just click on those links and check things out if you want as far as your art supplies go. But okay, let's finish up with our last one. We're going to make our city scene. Let's say we'll make it like a park setting with some buildings in the distance. So let's go with the same idea here, about a third of the way up. We're going to make the distant cityscape like that. We'll make some buildings in the distance. Then we're going to have a park-like setting. So maybe we can have like a, let's say we'll have like maybe like a pathway going through here. We'll make a pathway going through toward the city. And we'll just make that path get larger as it goes forward here in the painting to give us that 3-dimensional kind of really nice quality. So I'll just make this, I'll put my tape over here so we have more room. And we'll do this. We'll have like the pathway like this. And then we'll take some buildings here. We'll make some distant buildings over here like so. And I'll make some buildings in the distance like this. Like that. So we have some nice buildings. We'll have a sky, some grass. This will be a park. And let's see how this works out. Let's try it out. Again, all with the idea of we're just starting out in watercolor, so we're just looking to have some fun, get some practice time in, some compositions in, learn some new fundamentals in watercolor, in composition, painting, how to use our paintbrushes, our paints, our pencils, our drawing. Basically, our drawing is essentially a road winding in and leading our eyes into the painting, wide at the bottom of the painting here, the closest to us, the foreground, it's wide, and then this pathway just gets thinner and thinner as it goes into the distance. And this is basically like, if you can imagine, that's like an S shape. So you're making kind of like an S shape. And then we just have our buildings here in the distance, which are just basically rectangles and squares. And we'll do a sky wash too as well. So let's, I think what we'll do is we'll use the glazing technique. And we'll move up to a flat brush. So let's use our flat brush here. We showed these in the beginning of the video. These you can get, again, in like a 6-piece pack for very inexpensive watercolor brushes. These are by the Princeton Art and Brush Company, and I have them in the comment section below. So let's get one single wash across the whole painting. The first thing I'll do is empty out my water container and start out with some fresh, clean water, because we are going to use the glazing technique here, which is covering the whole area of this watercolor paper with some damp, wet wash, white, I should say, like or clear water, and then we'll go over with some wash. So I'm pouring some fresh, clean water into my water bucket, crystal clear water like this. Then I just take the water like this, get the brush with some water on it, and just get some water up top here, and just lightly add water here and there, not everywhere. I would paint around the road here. Let's paint around the road. Let's practice let's leave the road white paper, and we'll actually cover the paper with the clear water around that road shape there, that S-shaped road, with damp, clear water, dampen the paper, and then you can dampen the paper here across. And this is when we'll have some fun. We'll get some preliminary first super light wash on here. So I'll go over to my palette, I'll rinse off my brush, come over here, we'll pick up some of that sky color, and just have some fun. Now here, you can see I'm kind of just like holding the brush up high. I'm not resting my hand on the paper at this point. This is a little more of a looser feel where we're going to hold the brush up high and just take the brush and just swing it across the page like so. Like that. Maybe take a little bit of a darker blue with some brown mixed in there. Maybe even some purple, but I would say stick with blue. A little bit of orange, maybe orange and blue. Yeah, and just have a little bit of a interesting color there at the top of the painting. That might be a little storm cloud up there or something. Okay, and then we leave some white paper there. Then we go right over here and grab some of that green. If there's a little bit of brown in there, that's okay. A little bit of brown and green makes a nice olivey green. Some yellow as well. Yellow, a little bit of orange maybe up here. And just mix them all together, and then we'll get some of our grass color in here. And you can kind of see how this really flat brush is beautiful. It gives you really crisp, nice lines with your paint. You can go right up to your road lines and then just set the brush down and you're getting some beautiful washes on the paper, typical of watercolor, transparent looking, beautiful, clear colors right onto the paper. And again, if you paint around the road, you'll be able to maintain leaving that road that white, which is nice. You want to leave some white paper if you can, here and there. You can always go over it, but you cannot lift up your paint once you paint on top of that white paper. So that's a good thing to always remember with watercolor. All right, so there we go. And some of the, you can see some of the paint is sort of lifting up and going into the buildings in the distance there. That's fine. That's okay. That will not be a problem, because we're going to make these buildings a little darker. So if you have a little bit of a lighter wash over the buildings, which you can actually even add a little bit of wash to the buildings, a little bit of that gold, and just blend it in like that. Okay, that looks great. So we're already off to a great start. Again, now the key when you're painting the glazing technique, and again, I did mention that in my book, I basically cover two main concepts with watercolor as far as techniques and methods of painting in watercolor. There's basically two, kind of like schools of thought that you'll find that all professional level, top level artists will use. They use either the glazing technique, which is just what we've seen here, or the alla prima technique, which is kind of like how we did the tree and the flowers, where you just go in and paint everything at one time and you don't really do things in like glazings or washes and then letting things dry and then coming back in. So this we're going to do in the glazing technique, which is you put on your first light wash, very light, let it dry 100%, and then come back and then finish with the buildings on top and any other details you might want to add in there. So that's another thing my book does cover, the main techniques in watercolor that all watercolor artists usually will use, or a combination of both. So once you get used to both of those techniques, alla prima or glazing technique, you'll use both interchangeably, or sometimes you'll exclusively use one or the other. But that's, you're the artist, you're going to figure that out as you go. You learn both techniques, and then you work with your paintings and complete them as you need to, okay? But let's finish up this video in about maybe 10 or 20 minutes now. We'll just finish up this one painting after it dries. So let's come back in about 10 minutes after it dries. You can use a blow dryer to speed up your drying process. I like to do that a lot, especially when I'm making videos. I'll use my blow dryer to dry this off 100% so that's completely dry. And then we can go over the top with our second glazing. Let's do that. All right, so I let this dry with the blow dryer for about 2 or 3 minutes. Just everything's now perfectly dry to the touch. Now we can go over with our second wash on top of this. I will do, essentially I'll create some buildings in the distance using some of the purple and blue and grayish colors. And I want this to be light. Let's see how it looks. And again, we're using this flat brush, which is just perfect for doing any kind of architecture type things, buildings. So you can kind of see that's kind of nice. Blue mixed in with that. It might be a little bit lighter, I think. It could be a little bit lighter, I think. Let's see. That building might be a little bit closer to us. And then maybe some of these other buildings are a little further away. So if you want the buildings to feel like they're further away, you just make your wash lighter. So you might have to take a small piece of paper towel and then clear out. You know, that's what happens when you have too much paint. Let's say on your palette, you can start clearing out a little section or two just quickly while you're painting so you have more area to work on. So we did say I wanted to make this a little bit lighter. So I would add some water to my brush and make that lighter. And then we can make this building. Let's try that. And now we see that that building's much lighter looking. And the same with this one here. So the closer your buildings are, the darker they'll be. The further in the distance your buildings, the lighter they're going to be, and also more blue in color. So we'll leave this one in the distance too. And I just carefully use my flat brush like this. Like that. I would change up the colors maybe a little bit. So we wouldn't want all the buildings to look the same color. Maybe we just change that color a little bit, just subtly. Pick up a few different colors. And then maybe this one too, we'll do the same thing. We'll pick up some different colors. And I take my brush and take the hairs of the brush and press them hard so I get that good straight edge on the brush hairs. And then I can take this and make this a little bit better, the line there. Same thing there. You can make shadowing on the buildings if you want. Maybe just put a little bit of a darker shadow on the side of the buildings, like that. Rinse off the brush, dry off the water so that you just have a damp brush, and then you can smooth that out. You just smooth out that bit of that darker wash, like that. There you go. So now you can see you have a good distant feeling of a distant skyline there with the buildings kind of softer and lighter. And now what we can do is we can make some light posts. Let's say we'll make this is like a pathway leading to the city. We can make some light posts. What we can do is take a ruler, and then maybe we'll make a light post here in the front of the painting. This will give us some really good three-dimensional quality. So we can make a light post here. We'll make it high in the air because it's right close up to us, so it's pretty high up in the air, like that. Then we'll make another light post over here in the distance, but we'll make this way less in height. It's going to be smaller because it's going into the distance. And then we'll make another one over here, smaller yet, and then another one, smaller yet, and then another one there. So we'll make some light posts to give us some steps. We could call these eye stoppers. Eye stoppers are basically subject matter, maybe small items that you put into your painting that will keep someone's eyes from going really quickly through your painting. So if you put some light posts here, someone's eyes will look at those light posts and kind of check them out slowly as they go into the distance, and that will slow a person's eyesight and attention their attention will go less quickly through the painting. So if you have this pathway leading in, the chances are if you don't add some light posts or maybe some figures or something else in this, your eyesight might just take you right through really quickly through the painting. But you want to hold someone's attention on your painting, so that's when you're going to add some eye stoppers, which basically keep your eyes from going too fast through a painting and maybe off of the painting onto another person's painting. So let's keep the attention on ours here. So we put the pencil lines first, and I think we can use this brush here, our flat brush, to create these light posts. The first one up close is going to be darker, so I'll pick up some brown and some of that blue we were using before. Brown and blue and orange I think is fine. So you see we have orange, brown, and blue, pretty good dark, kind of a wash. And then we splay out our brush hairs like this. And then we even take a little bit of paper towel and dry off a little bit of the paint. We don't want too much paint on there. Rather have less paint on when you're doing like something like a light post, a light pole. Less paint's better, and then we just go a little bit at a time and just go. So we can make this one a little thicker. And we just take it and we just start making it like this. Just use the brush as your straight edge. Like that. That's the first one. Then the next one we dry off the brush and just keep using the same brush. We want to make these lighter now. So we don't want to make these too dark. So yeah, these become lighter a little bit. So that means we would actually rinse off our brush now and maybe use a lighter wash like this. And we dry off a little bit of the paint. And this one here is just like that. And if it comes out too thick, lift it up, let that dry a little bit. We'll do the last few over here. These are very fine. I would use the Prang's very, very pointy point on this brush. We could do that like this here. like that, and another one there. And maybe we could do this one here too. Yeah, that's better. Like that. Then we might make a little light on top. Like this, a couple lights on top of these. And there we have it. So we have some light posts leading our eye into the painting. Let's do a few figures. With our prang brush, might as well just use some light grayish color that we mixed here. We're going to put some distant figures here. We don't want to make them too big. We'll make a couple figures walking here. And they're just basically like a rectangle, if you can imagine. Maybe the other figure we can make, they have maybe a red or an orange coat on, or some orange shirt. You can change the colors of your figures. And they may be walking like this. Just like that. Almost like little tiny carrots. And then we'll put a darker, the top for the hair of the figures, for the hair, for the head. We'll just do a little bit of darker paint and just put a little tiny dot there for the heads, like that. And then if we have some shadowing, we could put a little shadow there on the figures. But that should be fine. A couple figures, some light posts, interesting looking street scene, almost like a park scene with some, a cityscape in the background. I'm hoping you really enjoyed this tutorial. I'm hoping you'll come back and work along with me and with all of us together for more paintings, and especially the Extreme Beginner series. I have actually many Extreme Beginner series paintings, so if you're just here for the first time, you can always go back and type in Extreme Beginners with my name, Chris Petri. You'll find literally probably 50, 75, even possibly 100. I think I maybe have made about 100 Extreme Beginners videos already now over the last couple years. So those are my series where it's pretty much when you're just starting out as a watercolor artist. We'll be working with this palette, with the synthetic brushes like we've been using here. So you've seen me use the synthetic brushes here. We use just your standard pencil for pencil drawing. We cover layout. We cover the basics, the fundamentals, color mixing, paint to water ratios, different techniques you're going to use, the glazing technique, the alla prima method and technique. So let's enjoy watercolor together, have fun, enjoy the journey. It's just one step at a time as you go. No reason to stress at all. Have fun with it, and we're having a great time here. So always remember, if you haven't subscribed so far, feel free. Hit the subscribe button. This way you don't miss us at all. You'll see that we'll be creating new videos each week here as we go forward, okay? All right, see you on the next video. Bye-bye.